I am a 34-year-old software engineer who had been trying to have a baby with my wife Amanda for 3 years. After multiple failures, we turned to in vitro fertilization. Just as we were celebrating a successful pregnancy, I discovered a text message on her phone revealing she secretly arranged to use her ex-boyfriend's sperm instead of mine because of superior genetics. Where are you watching from today? Hit that subscribe button and join me as I share how I handled the ultimate betrayal. I met Amanda 6 years ago at a friend wedding. She was the maid of honor, and I was one of the groomsmen. Our eyes locked across the venue during the reception, and we ended up talking until the venue staff started cleaning up around us. She was beautiful, smart, ambitious, and had the most infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. Amanda worked as a marketing executive, and her drive matched my own ambition in the tech industry. Our relationship progressed quickly. Within 3 months, we moved in together, and after just 1 year, I proposed during a weekend trip to Napa Valley. The wedding was perfect, with 100 guests at a rustic vineyard venue. We were so in love and eager to build our life together. From the beginning, we both wanted children. We talked about having at least 2 kids, maybe 3. We even picked out potential names during our honeymoon in Hawaii. Amanda wanted to establish her career first, so we waited 2 years before trying to conceive. When she finally stopped taking birth control, we were ecstatic, thinking it would happen quickly. Month after month passed without success. Each negative pregnancy test brought disappointment, but we kept trying, believing it would happen naturally. After a year of trying, we started tracking ovulation cycles and timing intimacy accordingly. The spontaneity and joy of our relationship began to fade, replaced by scheduled sessions and mounting frustration. When we hit the 18-month mark with no success, we consulted a fertility specialist. The doctor ran a series of tests on both of us. The results were devastating to me. I had a low sperm count and poor motility, meaning my swimmers had trouble reaching their destination. The doctor explained this significantly reduced our chances of natural conception. The news hit me hard. I felt less of a man, though Amanda assured me it changed nothing between us. We discussed our options, and the doctor recommended in vitro fertilization as our best chance. The process would be expensive, around $20,000 per cycle, with no guarantee of success. We had some savings, but not nearly enough. Determined to start our family, we decided to take out a second mortgage on our home. It was a significant financial burden, but we believed our future family was worth the sacrifice. We also cut back on expenses, canceling vacations and dining out less frequently. I even picked up freelance coding projects on weekends to boost our income. The IVF process was far more involved than I had imagined. Amanda had to inject herself with hormones daily to stimulate egg production. The needles were large, and sometimes she needed my help to administer them. I watched her body change and her emotions fluctuate wildly from the hormones. Despite the discomfort, she remained focused on our goal. Meanwhile, I provided multiple sperm samples that the clinic would use to fertilize her eggs once they were retrieved. The doctors explained they would select the healthiest sperm from my samples, improving our chances despite my fertility issues. Throughout this process, I accompanied Amanda to every appointment, holding her hand and providing emotional support. The egg retrieval procedure was successful, yielding 14 viable eggs. The embryologists fertilized them with my sperm, and 5 days later, we had 6 healthy embryos. The doctor transferred 1 embryo into Amanda's uterus, and we froze the remaining 5 for potential future pregnancies or in case this attempt failed. The 2-week wait after the transfer was excruciating. Amanda took a home pregnancy test a few days early, and we were overjoyed to see 2 pink lines appear. The clinic confirmed the pregnancy with a blood test, and we celebrated by opening a bottle of non-alcoholic champagne. Finally, after all our struggles, we were going to be parents. In those early weeks of pregnancy, I noticed changes in Amanda's behavior. She became secretive with her phone, always keeping it face down and taking calls in another room. She changed her passwords, which was unusual since we had always known each other phone codes. She also began mentioning old friends I had never heard of, meeting them for lunch or coffee. At first, I dismissed my concerns. Pregnancy is a significant life change, and I thought perhaps she was just processing everything in her own way. I attributed her mood swings to pregnancy hormones and tried to be understanding. I focused on being supportive, picking up extra chores around the house and making sure she was comfortable. Then came the evening that changed everything. Amanda was in the shower when her phone chimed with a text. I normally would never check her messages, but we had an appointment with the obstetrician the next day, and I wanted to confirm the time. When I picked up her phone, a text preview from someone named Julian appeared. Glad everything worked out with the swap. Our baby is going to be perfect. My hand trembled as I opened the message. What I discovered next would shatter our marriage forever. The text conversation with Julian revealed months of planning between him and Amanda. They had arranged for his sperm to be used during our IVF procedure instead of mine. I scrolled through message after message, each one driving the knife deeper into my heart. Amanda had reconnected with Julian, her college boyfriend, shortly after we received my fertility diagnosis. I sat on the edge of our bed feeling physically ill as I read their exchanges. Brock will never know, she had written. The baby will have your brains and my looks. Perfect combination. Julian had responded with better genes than he could provide anyway. When Amanda emerged from the shower, I confronted her immediately. My voice barely controlled as I held up her phone with the damning evidence. Her face went pale, but what disturbed me most was how quickly she recovered and began defending her actions. You should be grateful, she said, wrapping her robe tightly around herself. Julian has superior genetics. He was a National Merit Scholar with an athletics scholarship. His family has no history of heart disease or cancer, unlike yours. I could barely process what I was hearing. The woman I had loved and supported, whose hormone injections I had administered with my own hands, had betrayed me at the most fundamental level. How did you even pull this off? I demanded, my thoughts racing to the strict protocols at the fertility clinic. Amanda revealed that her college roommate Stephanie worked as a nurse at our fertility clinic. For a fee, Stephanie had helped swap out my sperm sample for one provided by Julian on the day of fertilization. The conspiracy had been meticulously planned and executed without my knowledge. That night was the first time in our marriage that we slept in separate rooms. I took a pillow and blanket to the guest bedroom, unable to be near Amanda. Sleep was impossible as my mind replayed every moment of our fertility journey, now tainted by deception. What hurt most was not just the act itself, but the casual way. Amanda dismissed my feelings about it. The next morning I called in sick to work and scheduled an emergency session with a therapist. Dr. Lewis listened patiently as I poured out the whole sordid story, my emotions swinging between rage, heartbreak, and humiliation. He helped me understand that my feelings were valid and suggested strategies for navigating the difficult conversations ahead. During the following week, I began investigating just how deep Amanda's betrayal went. I discovered she had maintained contact with Julian throughout our entire marriage. Their relationship had never truly ended. It had simply gone underground. There were dinner meetings during business trips, phone calls when I worked late, and even a weekend together when Amanda claimed to be at a marketing conference. When Amanda's parents visited that weekend, I was shocked to discover they knew about the embryo switch. Her mother actually took me aside and suggested I should be grateful to raise any child given my condition. It became clear where Amanda had developed her attitude. Her father, a successful surgeon, made a passing comment about keeping the genetic line strong that made my skin crawl. My resentment grew as I realized our entire marriage had been built on lies. The woman I thought I knew, who had stood before our friends and family, promising to love and honor me, had been leading a double life. What else had she lied about? How could I possibly trust anything she said now? Amanda's strategy shifted when she realized I wasn't simply going to accept the situation. She began using her pregnancy to manipulate me, claiming my anger and distress were harming the baby. She would place her hands protectively over her stomach whenever we argued, as if shielding the child from me. Stress is bad for the baby, Brock, she would say during our arguments. Do you want to harm an innocent child because of your ego? While Amanda was at a prenatal appointment, I took the opportunity to look through our home office. Behind a false bottom in her desk drawer, I discovered a separate bank account statement showing regular deposits from Julian over the past year. There was also a folder containing information about family law attorneys specializing in custody cases. The most crushing blow came 3 weeks after my initial discovery. I returned home early from work and overheard Amanda on the phone in our bedroom. I stood silently in the hallway, my blood turning to ice as I listened. "Brock does not matter," she was saying to Julian. "Once the baby is born, he will not have any rights. We can be together properly then. The lawyer says, since he is not the biological father, we can easily remove him from the picture." In that moment, something broke inside me. The last shred of love I had been clinging to disintegrated. I realized I was nothing more than a temporary inconvenience in her plans, a financial provider, until she could establish her new family with Julian. The child I had thought would be mine was simply a pawn in their game. After overhearing that conversation, I experienced what I can only describe as an emotional collapse. I drove to a nearby park and sat in my car for hours, alternating between sobbing and staring numbly at nothing. The foundation of my life had crumbled, and I had no idea how to proceed. The next day I contacted my friend Marcus, who practiced family law. We met for coffee and I explained the situation, feeling humiliated with each word, but knowing I needed professional advice. Marcus looked genuinely shocked. "This is unusual, to say the least," he said, scratching his head. "Legally, as her husband, you would be presumed to be the father of any child born during your marriage. But you could contest paternity with a DNA test after birth." "What about the fertility clinic?" I asked. "Surely there are regulations against what happened." "Absolutely," Marcus confirmed. "What the nurse did constitutes medical fraud and possibly criminal misconduct. The clinic could face serious liability, and the nurse could lose her license." I faced an impossible moral dilemma. I had desperately wanted to be a father, but not like this. The child Amanda was carrying was not biologically mine, but conceived through deception and betrayal. Could I truly love this child? Knowing the circumstances of its conception, and even if I could, would Amanda and Julian allow me to be part of its life? When I returned home that evening, Amanda had prepared my favorite dinner, an obvious attempt at manipulation. Over the meal, she delivered an ultimatum. "You need to accept this situation," she said coolly. "If you fight me on this or try to expose what happened, I will tell everyone that you are infertile and inadequate as a man. Think about how that will look to your colleagues, your friends, your parents." Her threat revealed just how little she respected or loved me. The woman across the table was a stranger wearing my wife face. Later that week, I discovered Amanda had been sharing intimate details about our marriage with Julian. Text messages revealed she had told him about our sex life, my insecurities, even private conversations from our therapy sessions. Nothing had been sacred to her. I decided to confront Stephanie, the nurse who had facilitated the embryo swap. I waited outside the clinic one evening until her shift ended and approached her in the parking lot. Initially defensive, she eventually broke down and admitted everything. "Amanda paid me $20,000, she confessed. "She said you had agreed to use a donor but wanted to keep it quiet. I never thought to verify with you directly." Stephanie confirmed they had used Julian's sperm on the day of fertilization, disposing of my sample. She appeared genuinely remorseful, but her regret came far too late. The next day, I requested a meeting with the clinic director, Dr. Patel. I explained what had happened, providing screenshots of texts between Amanda and Julian that referenced the switch. Dr. Patel was horrified. "This violates every ethical standard we have," she said gravely. "I assure you we will conduct a full investigation. Stephanie will be suspended immediately." Sitting in Dr. Patel office, surrounded by photos of the babies she had helped bring into the world, I experienced a moment of clarity. Throughout this nightmare, I had been reacting to Amanda's decisions, allowing her to control the narrative and my responses. It was time to stand up for myself and what I deserved: honesty, respect, and love. That evening, I began documenting everything: the text messages, my conversation with Stephanie, the meeting with Dr. Patel, the secret bank account. All of it. I would no longer be a passive victim in this situation. When Amanda realized I was not going to quietly accept her betrayal, her behavior became increasingly hostile. She called me selfish and petty. She claimed I was trying to ruin her happiness out of spite. Her mother began calling daily, leaving voicemails about how I was destroying their family. I stopped responding to the emotional manipulation. Instead, I developed a detailed plan for how to proceed with dignity and self-respect. I would not allow Amanda or anyone else to determine my worth as a man or my right to honest relationships. Over the next 2 weeks, I consulted with 3 different lawyers to understand all my options. Each confirmed that I could contest paternity and potentially be removed from the birth certificate, but I would need to act decisively. My friend, who worked in digital security, helped me recover deleted text messages from a backup of Amanda's phone, providing additional evidence of the conspiracy. I also obtained a written statement from Stephanie, detailing her role in the embryo swap, which she provided in hopes of receiving leniency from the medical board. I set up hidden cameras in our living room after consulting with my lawyer about the legality. It felt wrong to resort to surveillance in my own home, but I needed to protect myself. The cameras captured Amanda on phone calls with Julian planning their future, and in one damning conversation, she explicitly admitted to the deception while talking to her mother. Of course, Brock did not know about the switch she said on the recording. He would never have agreed. But it is done now, and he just needs to accept it. Financially, I knew I needed to protect myself. I gradually withdrew funds from our joint accounts, documenting every transaction and leaving exactly half of our shared savings. I redirected my paychecks to a new personal account and consulted a financial advisor about the mortgage on our home. Meanwhile, the Fertility Clinic Ethics Board had completed their investigation. They found Stephanie had violated numerous protocols and falsified medical records. She was terminated immediately, and the clinic reported her to the nursing board. Dr. Patel called to inform me they were cooperating fully with my legal team and would provide all relevant records. Amanda had been planning a baby shower with her friends, completely ignoring the crisis in our marriage. The event was scheduled at an upscale restaurant, with 30 guests, including her parents and Julian's sister. Working with my lawyer, I arranged for a process server to deliver the divorce papers during the shower. I was not present, but my friend Lisa, who had been invited before the truth came out, described the scene. The server approached Amanda as she was opening gifts politely, asking to confirm her identity before handing her the envelope. According to Lisa, the room went completely silent as Amanda's face drained of color. She excused herself to the restroom and did not return for nearly 30 minutes. That evening, our phones exploded with calls and messages as the news spread through our social circle. I had included a brief factual explanation of the reason for divorce in my filing, which became public record. I did not want Amanda to control the narrative with lies about me. The clinic nurse Stephanie, now facing the loss of her nursing license, had become more forthcoming as the consequences of her actions became clear. She provided a detailed affidavit about how Amanda had approached her, the payment arrangement, and how they had executed the swap. This document proved invaluable to my case, and to the criminal investigation that the district attorney was now considering. Amanda made desperate attempts to salvage her reputation. She posted a tearful video on social media, claiming I had agreed to use a donor and was now having regrets. She tried to paint herself as the victim of my changed mind. Few people believed her, especially after Julian suddenly distanced himself from the situation, unwilling to face potential criminal charges for his role. Throughout this period, I maintained a dignified silence in public. When confronted by mutual friends, I simply directed them to the court filings. In private, I continued therapy sessions twice weekly, working through my grief and betrayal with professional support. The court proceedings moved relatively quickly due to the unusual circumstances. During a preliminary hearing, the judge expressed strong condemnation of the embryo switch, calling it a profound fraud that strikes at the heart of marital trust and medical ethics. After consulting with my therapist and lawyers, I made the difficult decision to waive all paternity rights to the unborn child. While I had initially wanted children desperately, I recognized that co-parenting with Amanda would mean a lifetime of manipulation and conflict. I needed a clean break to heal and rebuild my life. Julian eventually reached out to meet privately. Against my lawyer advice, I agreed meeting him at a neutral coffee shop. To my surprise, he appeared genuinely remorseful. "She manipulated me too," he admitted, unable to meet my eyes. "Amanda told me you had agreed to use a donor but wanted to keep it quiet for pride reasons." I only learned the truth when she started talking about custody arrangements. Though his words did not excuse his actions, they confirmed my understanding of Amanda's character and her ability to manipulate those around her. With the divorce proceedings underway, I decided to make a fresh start. I put our house on the market, using my portion of the equity to purchase a small condo in Austin, Texas, where my company had an office. The physical distance would help create the emotional space I needed to heal. What surprised me most during this painful period was the support I received from friends I had not expected to stand by me. My college roommate flew in to help me pack. Colleagues organized a housewarming for my new place. Even Amanda's cousin reached out to express her support, saying the family had always enabled Amanda's manipulative behavior. As the moving truck pulled away from the house we had once chosen together to raise a family in, I felt a complicated mixture of grief and relief. A chapter of my life was ending, but for the first time in months, I could see the possibility of a new beginning. The first 3 months after moving to Austin were the hardest. I would wake up in my new condo disoriented, reaching across the bed for someone who was not there. The silence was deafening after years of sharing space with another person. Despite the distance, the divorce proceedings continued to demand attention. Each legal document that required my signature reopened wounds that were trying to heal. My lawyer suggested minimal contact with Amanda, communicating only through legal representatives. This boundary proved essential for my mental health. I found a local support group for men dealing with infertility and relationship challenges. Every Tuesday evening I joined a circle of guys in similar situations. Some were struggling with medical issues like mine, others with partners who could not conceive, and a few dealing with the aftermath of relationship breakdowns. The solidarity of these meetings became an anchor in my week. The hardest part is feeling like less of a man shared Michael, a firefighter with azoospermia, during one session. His words resonated deeply with me. We discussed how society ties masculinity to fertility in harmful ways, creating shame around a medical condition no one would choose. While processing my grief, I channeled energy into my career. I took on leadership of a new project developing security software for healthcare systems. The irony was not lost on me that my work might help prevent situations like mine in the future. My colleague Jordan became a friend, inviting me for hikes in the Texas Hill Country on weekends. The physical exertion and natural beauty provided a healing I could not find elsewhere. Under the vast Texas sky, my problems seemed more manageable, my future more open. 6 months after the move, I received notice that my divorce was finalized. That same day, I learned that Amanda had given birth to a boy. I felt an unexpected wave of sadness, not for the loss of Amanda, but for the child I had once thought would be mine. I hoped he would be loved and well cared for despite the circumstances of his conception. My therapist encouraged me to begin dating when I felt ready. The best way to restore your faith in relationships is to have positive experiences, she advised. Initially reluctant, I eventually created a profile on a dating app, being transparent about my divorce, but selective about sharing details. The first few dates were awkward, as I had not dated anyone but Amanda for years. I felt rusty and guarded, afraid to be vulnerable again. Some women were put off by my recent divorce, others too curious about the details. I learned to be patient with the process, and with myself. 8 months after my move, I met Eliza at a charity fundraiser for a children's hospital. She was a pediatric surgeon with kind eyes and a surprisingly dry sense of humor. Our conversation flowed naturally, and for the first time since the divorce, I found myself genuinely laughing. Eliza and I took things slowly. On our third date, I shared a simplified version of my divorce. Her response surprised me. "That shows incredible strength," she said. Many people would have stayed out of obligation or fear of starting over. Through mutual friends, I learned that Amanda and Julian's relationship had fallen apart shortly after the baby was born. The stress of parenthood legal troubles and public scrutiny had fractured whatever connection they thought they had. I felt no satisfaction in this news, only sadness for the child caught in the middle. My therapy sessions gradually reduced from weekly to monthly as I developed healthier thought patterns and coping mechanisms. I learned to forgive myself for not seeing the warning signs in my marriage earlier. My therapist helped me understand that trust is not foolish. Betrayal is the choice of the betrayer, not the failure of the betrayed. As my relationship with Eliza deepened, we began discussing the future, including the possibility of children. She had always been open to adoption, having seen many children in need through her work. We researched foster care programs and adoption agencies, considering all pathways to parenthood. 2 years after leaving my old life behind, I encountered Amanda during a business trip to Chicago. She was pushing a stroller outside a department store, looking tired but well-dressed as always. She saw me at the same moment I saw her, and we stood frozen for a heartbeat before I nodded politely and continued walking. In that brief exchange, I realized the power she once held over my emotions had dissipated. That evening I called Eliza and told her about the encounter. I felt nothing. I said, somewhat surprised by this myself. No anger, no hurt, just nothing. That is called healing, she replied. The experience brought clarity about what I had learned. True family is not defined by genetics, but by love, respect, and trust. The child I would eventually parent, whether biologically mine or not, would be my child because of the love and commitment I offered, not because of DNA. I adopted a new philosophy. Honesty and mutual respect are non-negotiable in relationships. I would never again compromise on these values, no matter how much I wanted something to work. Looking back on that painful chapter, I now see it led me where I needed to be. Sometimes losing what you thought you wanted opens the door to what you truly need. I had wanted to be a father at any cost. Now I understood that the foundation of family must be built on truth. What was your most important life lesson that came from a painful experience? Drop a comment below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of overcoming betrayal and finding new beginnings. Share with someone who might need to hear that healing is possible even after the deepest wounds. Thank you for listening. And remember that your worth is never determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to rise above it.